feel like there's a lot of questions as to sort of like what happened, what's all this ATG stuff, what are all these injuries you've had, what happened. The best way to summarize it is just that I've been chasing a dream, or I've been on an adventure, to say the least. And I wanted to let you know a bit about that dream and just explain sort of the background and how this all came to be and how it started and the path I'm on, I guess. And appreciate you being here if you're watching this. It's going to be a longer form video, more in depth. So me chasing that dream sort of summarizes a lot of the confusion, because I don't know, if you know anything about chasing your dream, it's sort of something you kind of only have the eye for. It's something individual to you. So I'll just give you the backstory, or the introduction. Got my notes here. I was working a job on a fishing vessel, and the work on that boat was 84 hours a week, which is fucking insane. There's cabins on the boat which enable, so the shift was, my shifts were 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 6 hours on, 6 hours off. So you have 6 hours of straight working, and then you have 6 hours to eat, shower, sleep, and get ready for the next shift. And it's 6 hours on, 6 hours off, 6 hours on, 6 hours off, continuously for 3 months, with a 2-day break in the middle. So it's 6 weeks, 2 days, 6 weeks. And sometimes it was 10 weeks, sometimes. So it was fucking insane labor, to say the least. I'm not complaining about it, like it was, or I will be, but we'll explain more of the details and stuff. But so I was, there's 2 types of jobs you can get on the boat. I was working on, so maybe how I got the job was, how I got the job, that you can be, where do I pivot from here? It's sort of a balancing act. I'm gonna try to just get majority of things done in this, and sort of just balance. So a bit about the job. There's 2 types of jobs. You can work on the deck, which is more like running up and down stairs and shit, which is fucking, that's like, it wasn't fine. Okay, maybe I should give you the backstory and explain sort of my first injury, I guess. So my first injury was right after high school, and how it occurred was, I had some emotions I didn't know how to deal with, and I was taking it out on my body, and that's something we can go into at a later date. Just I want to go into the psychology and sort of what led up to me hurting myself. So I was on poor sleep. I was eating McDonald's, and I was just taking shit out on my body in the gym because I didn't know how else to deal with it, and I was hurting myself. I strained my shoulder, punching the bag like an idiot, in that sort of pec long range. I just did that too much, and it just sort of just messed up my shoulder a bit. It healed over since. Just want to make sure this is working. Okay, I was just making sure. I've been fucked over too many times. So I was taking my, okay, so one night I hadn't slept at all. I just ate McDonald's at 6 in the morning, and I was gonna go to the gym, and I was doing these explosive high tension movements, thinking I was getting explosive, because I didn't really know what the fuck I was doing, honestly. I was watching too many fucking Conor McGregor videos, and I was just taking shit out of my body. And so I was doing this deadlift, and whilst I was doing the deadlift, I was just being reckless, and I didn't warm up properly either, and maybe I did, but what I did was even worse. I sort of, man, I can remember the fucking pre-workout, just thinking about it. Crazy. So I was doing this deadlift, and I think I did a reverse tension, I did a drop catch deadlift. I did the deadlift, and then I'd lower it down, but before I touched the ground, I sort of like jerked it again. Not jerked it, but it's a reverse tension, it's a drop catch, and the drop catch requires a lot more tension because you're reversing the weight, like sort of instantaneously. You're going down, and then to change direction of that weight requires a lot of tension because of the you're changing direction of it would have been less tension to drop it and then slowly lift it up and then drop. But that drop catch and those drop catch Nordics, etc., that requires a lot more tension. And I did one of those, and didn't feel it or notice it at the time, but I strained each patella tendon sort of near the top end of the deadlift lockout. And side note, one of the reasons why this front knee has been so hard to diagnose is because I was looking at some Jake Tora videos since then, years later, and he talks about how which angles stress which part of the tendon more, and that step up range of motion, which is kind of where I strain my knee in the lockout position, the back side of the tendon is stressed more, and maybe that was the side tangent. So I woke up the next day after the gym that day, and or I think later that day I woke up because I would have had to go to sleep, and my knees were just aching. They were just aching, and I couldn't walk forward without pain. But funnily enough, what I could do was walk backwards, and this was before I'd looked at the knees over toes guys stuff, and so it's quite funny that all I could do was walk backwards, and that was the least painful. I couldn't really walk forward, so that strain kind of went away. It was tricky to go upstairs after that sometimes because I'd go up a step and my knee would just give out, and then I'd have to catch myself, and it was really weird. And it wasn't a full rupture, it was a partial rupture. It feels like about 30%, 33%. If you look at the graft of, if you look at an ACL graft from a patella tendon and how it's sort of got that line in the middle, and they use that for the ACL, that's sort of what it feels like on each knee. But the reason why it's been so hard to feel that is because, so I was watching, because I'd get it felt, and a doctor would inspect my knee, but he wouldn't be able to feel any rupture. And the reason why he couldn't feel it, because I managed to figure this out years later, so I wasn't able to get a diagnosis because there was no clear sign of injury. But the reason why they weren't able to feel the injury on the side of the knee was because I found this video years later that Jake Tora talks about the ranges of motion, that step up position where I sort of and hurt myself on the deadlift, that range, that step up range of motion, he shows in a video and with a scientific graph or study that they did where it tensions what part of the tendon more, and in that step up range you're stressing more the back side of the patella tendon. And it shows, I should show an image here, and that step up range of motion has been the hardest range of motion for me to develop and get strengthened, because that tissue, my suspicion is that tissue that was in that range was torn and gone, and what's left, and I didn't notice until years later, but if I tensioned, if my knee's resting, you can't feel anything, you can't feel the rupture, but if I tension it, like off the chair like I'm doing now, sort of in that same knee angle as the step up. If I tension the knee in the same angle as the step up, the rupture shows up way more prominent, like it shows through the tendon. And so the tear that I have on each knee is on the back side of each tendon. And when a doctor would feel it and inspect, they wouldn't be able to see it. And did end up getting an MRI for it. And then the specialist said he couldn't find anything, but we were looking at another issue on the hamstring, which I'll get into. So there's a bit of, but if you look at the fucking graph, you can see like all the fraying and where the damage is and all the white on the front of the knee there. So he missed that. So that's one little undermining for the one little jab at the specialist. So missed the fucking diagnose. Anyway, what the fuck ever. I have the so yeah, so that's one of the reasons why that was so hard to fucking diagnose. Anyway, so that was the first injury I had. Now we'll transition to, then I started looking at the knees over toes guys stuff, started hitting my feet around then. So I started learning and listening from him and his experience and his testimonials and just his experience and critiques of the medical system. And so anyway, so I go do this LSV course because I was lost and broke and I needed a job, then whatever. So I go do this military course and we're like halfway through, and one morning they're getting us to run on the spot as a warm-up, which is kind of stupid because you're sprinting and it's like high tension contacts on the ground with your Achilles. And I strained my Achilles a little bit, and I went to go to the staff, and then I was like, hey, like I just hurt myself, like I'm kind of pissed, like this was kind of dumb warm up because you're cold, you haven't really warmed up properly, and you just like, we just woke up, it's like 5 a.m, it's cold as fuck, and you're just sprinting on the spot. Like, yeah, most people with underdeveloped tendons are gonna, have an issue with that. And I was just, yeah. Anyway, so that happened. I also caught shin splints in this military program because, by the way, man, so many, like I'd always complain about my shin splints because it was just so painful. Man, it's like some people just completely undermine pain. Like it's so ridiculous. Like I'd talk about shin splints openly. I'd be like, hey, and then you just hear people just say, shut up. Like no one believes, like fucking what? And it's not really like that, but sometimes it is. Okay, so what happened? So we're camping one time, and I'm talking to this sergeant, and I said, hey, I have this pain like on my shins, and he's like, walk on the grass. And so I walked on the grass, and the pain was less, and then and he said, walk on the cement, and I walked on the cement, and the pain increased, and he's like, yeah, I think you have shin splints. And yeah, that was sort of, he looked a bit down and sad and sort of like walked off and didn't really know the fix. And so anyway, I graduate barely, and because the pain was just, it felt like my fucking shin bone was gonna, like, it felt like there was a fracture. Like it was just insane. It just felt like my shin was about to, like there was a line, like stress, and it was just like, fuck. Anyway. So I graduate, and I go see a physio because I wanted to be in the SAS. I wanted to go join the military. Like I fucking loved the orderly structure of the military. Like I just loved that. And I think because at home, my home life, there was just none of that at all. It was just chaotic single parent home. So I really enjoyed, you know, just some order, you know, and I really loved, so I really wanted to be in the SAS, and I really wanted to fucking, you know, do something that was prestigious, because I had an insane commitment to things. Like I'm the type of person that when I do something, like I'm sort of all in on it. And I did that when I was like 15, trying to start a business when Fortnite was blowing up. I made this Shopify account, and I was working on it for like 2 years, and it didn't work out, and I barely broke even. But it was a cool learning experience, and it taught me. I think it you know, helped me to see how universities, because I was learning business. I was doing business at school, and learning from people that were actually doing a lot and making money in business, and they were just all saying the same thing, like, university is a fucking scam, don't go to university. Like, they're all just regurgitating the same fucking stupid shit. Like, they're not really there to help you make a proper actual business. Like, don't get, so I had my eye a little bit open to that. And so, sorry, man, it's gonna be a long fucking, like, play at this rate. What was next? Shin splints. So I go see this physio, and he's like massaging my shin, and I'm like, hey, you know, why is the shin pain doing this? And why am I having shin pain? And he's like, because the soleus gets tight sometimes. And so he's massaging my soleus. But I didn't learn until years later, and he was getting me to do these stability exercises, but they weren't really addressing the root. And the reason why a muscle gets tight is because it's weak, and two, if it's stronger in a longer range of motion, it just owns the range. So you can gradually build up strength through longer ranges of motion gradually over time. So that's one part for the soleus. But for what I didn't notice when I was getting my boat job, when I was training and doing that, I went to the gym and I do tib raises and get a pump with the tibs, because I started learning about, because I was icing them a lot. I was icing my shins a lot, and because I was told just ice and ibuprofen, and that didn't fucking do anything. And yeah, this is kind of like years of, man. So I knew that tibs, because I got a pump with the tip, so I'd bounce on the spot because it hurt. It's an impact thing, right? The shin splints come through and get absorbed in the shin, and partly I would have had it because of the knee and less force going through the patella tendon maybe, and more into the shin. I don't know, but where am I? Shin pain. So I would bounce on the spot. I went to the gym and I'd bounce on the spot, which would sort of recreate and aggravate the pain. And then I'd get a tibialis anterior pump, and then I'd bounce on the spot, and the pain was much less. So I knew that the tibs were part of the equation to fixing shin splints. And I was over the years, and kind of like just reducing the impact and training the tibs on the side, eventually the pain sort of healed and subsided and kind of went away, although I did stop running. Okay, so anyway, I go do my fishing job. Oh yeah, so I'm doing my fishing job. Okay, so I got this job on the boat. Okay, we're back here now. So I've got those injuries sort of like lurking in the background. I'm gonna go do this job, and fucking good money. But it was insane labor. There's two jobs: you're on deck or you're in the factory. And on deck, you're like running up and down stairs, and the shin splints and the pain was fucking insane for me. So I had to quit doing that shit, because I was just like, there'd be times I just have to sit and take a moment to myself because the pain was just so insane. And so I didn't do that job next round because I was just like, fuck that. And so I go in the factory next round, and you're just at a bench packing fish and shit. It was pretty overused on my shoulder. You know, I feel like this is pretty boring. I'm just gonna, anyway, so I'm working this job on this boat. And I was going through a breakup. Nice little soul damaging move. And I didn't, I was processing that and going through. And usually I'd read this book called How to Be a 3% Man by Corey Wayne. And it's just a relationships book about courtship and there's some advice in there about just getting over the breakup. And I remember it just hurt so much and I just felt really like empty and just obsessing over the breakup. Not obsessing, but like just hurt and just like I was just trying to heal. And I just remember, anyway, so I was getting over this breakup, but I read that book like 15 fucking times. And not then, but like I had read it, and so I read it for the 15th time then, and I just wasn't getting, just wasn't like hitting. It just wasn't until I read this book called his other book, which is it's called Mastering Yourself. And what's the actual title of this? I want to get this correct. It's like how to align your life with your true calling and reach your full potential. That's the name of the book, and he just talks about sort of, it's kind of his story about his life and how he came to be an entrepreneur and his purpose and quitting his job to chase his dream. And I was reading this at the time and I got a bit of a kick out of it. So I started reading it, and it's a 52-hour book, and I read it like 3 times in 6 weeks. And I'd read it as I'd be going to bed. I'd put my headphones on and on the boat, and I'd go to sleep with it on. Sometimes I'd just listen to it the whole night. And it's sort of like he's talking a lot about, you know, chasing your dream and it really, something started to turn in me, and it sort of like started to light a spark. And I was having all these injuries, and I was working this job, and any creative sort of efficient way of doing things was sort of just snubbed and stomped out. Like if like I thought of an idea like, hey, let's all just have chairs and just sit down and do this. Like, why don't we have chairs? Like, this would be so much easier for everyone. And then it was sort of like, what, you fucking weak ass. And then, you know, like it just, any creative sort of efficient or effective way of doing things was just sort of stomped out. And I was having all these, overuse injuries. And by the way, on the boat, it's like really common to everyone to be broken. Like it's common because you're just, the overuse is just insane, and the recovery times aren't great. Like you can't sleep very long. It's only like 4 hours before you're like working again. Just my shoulder was cooked, and fucking everyone, it's just like part of the culture of working on that job. It's just being broken and physically hurt is like sort of accepted. And I didn't agree with that principle. I really disliked that principle because it was like, it felt like I was, you know, sacrificing the future for the now. And I didn't like that at all. And I didn't agree with that principle. And just in my soul, like it just didn't feel right with me. And deeply, on a deep level, like an intuition level. And I'm reading this book, and he's talking about your purpose and what you're passionate about, and a burning desire for something. And it just resonated really strongly with me at the time. And so I'm reading this book over and over, and it's like talking about some gift that you were put on this earth to do, that's your gift and yours alone. And I'm listening to this book, and you know, I'm having all these injuries, and they're sort of getting worse, and I started listening about, I just started listening about, I just thought, like, you know, he talks about his experience with quitting his job and chasing his dream, and I just was like, I need to quit, and I need to fix these injuries. And I've been listening to the knees over toes guy for a few years at this point, and so I just wanted to take a chance and go quit my job and free fall, and not free fall, but just fix these injuries. And I didn't know what I just knew in my soul that continuing to work there was the wrong move for me. And I was confident that any other way I went was the right move. And so I talked to my friend Micah, and he's the first sort of Christian friend I met. And I was very like, wanting to run through a lot of girls at this point when I met him, and he sort of, softened my heart on that. And so I'm calling my friend Mike, and I'm like, hey man, I'm thinking of quitting my job and chasing this dream. And he's like, what's your dream about? And it felt like, I was listening to a lot of music, and I just started imagining I don't know, I just had this vision of me like at the park, at like the school I used to go to, and just making content and doing exercise or whatever, and just fixing my injuries. And I don't know what that was, but I was just like, I was really attracted to it. And I called my friend, telling this to Micah, and I'm like, I'm thinking of just quitting my job and chasing this. And he's like, man, go for it. You're young, and if you fuck up, you can come back. And, you're young, you should spend this time, chasing, being risky and chasing something. And, and so that was it. And then I made my mind up, and I was going to quit. And so what happened was, there's like 6 weeks and then 2-day break in 6 weeks, and people that are on the 2-day break, they don't have to clean the boat. And so I pretended like I was going on the 2-day break, but really I was just leaving. And the leavers have to clean the boat, and then, sorry, that's a bit cheeky of me, and so I quit. And I was telling my roommate that I was going to quit, and he was like, no, stay, like, you need money. And it was interesting seeing that dynamic of someone that was working a job, and they're like, no, you should stay, like, let me, because in the book, he literally talks about how other people will try to get you to do what they're doing so that it reaffirms them on their, choice. It makes them feel better about themselves. If they can get you to come and affirm to what they're doing, it makes them feel better. So it was interesting seeing that dynamic when I was gonna quit, and I was telling him, and he's like, no, you should stay and get the other lot of money. And I was like, no, man, like, this is me. I'm gone. And he kept it secret, surprisingly, because he was like not a good friend of mine. Anyway, so I took the leap, and it was fun at first. I didn't know what I was doing. I sort of just went back home. I did have some notes. I didn't know where to start or what the hell I was doing. But I had some notes written down, so I just, sort of started there. And it was a very cool and beautiful experience to summarize. I'll go more into it on future episodes, but so beautiful and just, difficult, but so worth it, man. So worth it. I wouldn't take it back for anything. And makes me want to like cry just because of how fucking beautiful that experience is. Your adventure, your So I'd highly recommend it. There's a lot of people that are scared to quit their jobs.
and chase something, but what I know is that from doing that is if you answer the call, you are favored by God. And I know that to be true. And I'll say, and I'll give you my experiences on this verse. And the verse is, seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things will be added unto you. And my experience with that verse is that Jordan Peterson breaks it down and he says, if you set your sights on something that's highest, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things will be added onto you. His breakdown was that when you chase something that is the highest ethical thing that you can conceive of, it means don't worry about, it's like, what shall we eat, what shall we drink? It says don't worry about that. These things will come to you as you voyage on to, your adventurous Christ-like journey of harrowing hell and re-emerging from that better and stronger. And I rely on that verse or that principle to get by. Doing that will pull you through impossible circumstances, I promise you. If it's in accordance to the truth, and I don't know, it's just... So, sorry, I just got really emotional about that. And so I quit my job, I go back home, and I start doing the knees over toes guys stuff. I start following it exactly. What I was doing wrong was I was following it too exactly. And I was like, it's meant to be a rough guideline, and I was taking it quite to the T, and that was sort of my mistake. And I wasn't being genuine with the frequency of training, genuine with the pain I was feeling, because I was in pain, but I was just following the program and not listening to my body that I was in pain. So obviously I was doing too much, and I had a shoulder issue at the time too, from the overuse from the work, and that was getting better, and I wasn't doing anything for it. And I was doing so much for my knees, and they weren't getting better. So I was like, okay, maybe I should just chill out. And it was very depressing, but I just rested for a few days, and it got better. And I was like, okay, so it's my frequency of training. And so I'm training, I'm rehabbing, I start doing backwards walking, and I start noticing improvement. I'm like, sweet, I'm all good. And then I get too excited, I go to test things out for a run, too excited for a jog, and I'm warming up doing these dynamic influencer warm-ups, which was stupid because dynamic things are very long range without really warming up that tissue. It's not there's no sort of pump being brought into the concentric. It's not a good warm-up. It's really not. You're just exposing the tissues to longer ranges with the assisted muscles, I'd say. And so I go warm up for this light jog, just to see how things were. Warm up. And so I was doing these RDL toe touches quite fast and rapidly. And I was doing them, and then on the third rep I yanked, and I felt this cramp in my hamstring, and I hamstring adductor, and I didn't feel much pain at first, and then I went home to bed, and I thought it was just a little cramp or whatever. And then I woke up the next day and I was in so much pain, and I also had the issue on the front of my knee, and I couldn't it hurt to straighten and extend my leg. So it seemed like a knee flexor muscle was the culprit, and it just hurt so bad. And I went to the doctor. She gave me a work exemption certificate for a month, and then I went and saw a physio.
start seeing the physio, and it was just a nasty combination because I had the front of my knee I was just rehabbing, and now I've got an issue on the back of the knee, and it's a terrible combination because it hurt to straighten the leg because of the fresh hamstring strain, but it hurt to keep the leg bent and walk around kind of like that because the knee gets pressured in a more bent knee position, and I'd already strained it, so it was like this. And then I couldn't straighten my leg as well because then I just hurt the hamstring. So it was this like nasty combination. I was walking around like a chimp sometimes, and just nasty. So I was listening to the knees over toes guy and listening to his devastating critiques of the medical system, some of which I should have shared a long time ago so you guys would know what I'm talking about. But essentially it's like, one of the points was like, well, there's many, but one of the points was like, why do we listen to spine doctors when spine doctors can't even do Jefferson curls? They don't know what bulletproofs the spine. Like they don't know how, you know what I mean? Like, why are we listening to people that haven't had the injury, and he's had his own injuries and fixed them himself, and goes a entirely different approach to the medical system's approach. And then his testimonials with the anterior knee sequence, it's just all the testimonials you'll see from Athletic Truth Group, it's ridiculous. And they're all just doing the same sort of thing. And what it is, it's just concentric only, so it's blood flow and a shorter to longer range. And that usually hits most knee issues, which is kind of crazy. It'll hit the front knee, it'll hit the lateral ligaments, it'll hit, I know that because he told me about that, it'll hit the meniscus, it'll hit ACL, obviously with different time periods for different injuries, but tissues, and but it's crazy, and that approach just is not in this system. It's really just not. And so I was just listening to a lot of his devastating critiques, and that Athletic Truth Group stuff is a new explosion in the rehab space, and it's happened over the past 5 years, and it's sort of old news now, but I could tell that Ben was onto something because of the passion that he spoke, and I was very drawn to that passion, and I just knew it's like an unknown, just knowing that I just knew that he had figured something out, and because just the way he spoke about it, just purely, I could just tell, I just knew he'd figured something out there, and I just didn't quite get it. So I was studying everything that he was putting out, and even on the paid playlist that you have to, the hidden playlist that you get access to when you pay for the program. But I have some critiques about that because his explanation of things didn't quite fix me, and it wasn't until I discovered Keegan Smith's playlist, which is another co-founder of ATG for coaches, and he talks about, you know, the details, the nitty-gritties, like removing the eccentric. It's concentric only, because Ben will call it like reverse out knee pain, but it's just concentric only, shorter range. That's what it is. That's the accurate. Maybe he had to start a business, you know what I mean? So it's like, whatever. But it was Keegan Smith's explanation that actually saved me. So, seeing this physio, I ended up going broke. Like, all the details are on the post. You could just read the post. I'm sort of summarizing. I'm going to do a brief summary because I don't have much notes for in the future of what we're going to delve into. But it was just an absolute shit show. And I don't know why it was a shit show at the time. But I had this knee injury, and partly one of the reasons was that I'd cried wolf to my doctor, like, because I was too afraid that I didn't think I was going to get my knee issue covered by insurance, and so I lied and said, like, I made up the shoulder story, and then I came forward about it because it was just eating at me. My conscience was just like, I just couldn't keep that fucking lie to myself, and then I came forward about it to my doctor, and then she was like, then she didn't trust a fucking thing I said after that.
And then when I actually had the hamstring and knee issue that put me in a wheelchair, she wasn't believing a fucking thing I was saying. So that's the consequences you can face from lying. Like, I cried wolf to her, and then she wasn't. And then I had the actual injury, and then she wasn't believing me, and then I actually was fucked because I actually genuinely really did need help, and she was like, "You're a liar," and I was like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, "Okay, fuck." Like, I came in on crutches, and she was just like, and I'm like, I have pain here. This is the motions that hurt. This is the ranges that hurt. This is what I can't do. This is what issues I have. This is like, and then, so we're just having this argument. And I should have just been honest about, hey, look, I lied about this. I'm sorry. I actually I don't know, honesty sort of, the truth sort of, it can free up a lot of things. And I was like, remove me from this practice. Like, you guys aren't being helpful at all. She wasn't even there one session, and then I went to go see another doctor at the same practice. He just wasted my fucking time and money. He's like, I don't know much about your situation, and just charged me $50 and left. Anyway, and I was like, pull me out of this fucking practice. This practice is fucking useless. And she said, wherever you go, I'm gonna let them know that you lied. And I was just like, what the fuck? And so no matter where I was gonna go, she was gonna put on my file that I was a liar. And I was like, okay, that's a bit fucking extreme. And I should have just been honest with her about why and I didn't even need to lie and make up this lie to cover my show. Like, I think I would have been fine because it was still within the time frame that you can claim. Anyway, I ended up going seeing another doctor, and I was just honest and like just about everything. I was just bawling my eyes out because like I just had so much going on at that point in my life, and I was, oh my god. Like, we'll get into it on the next episode, I guess. I don't really have the notes. I can't, and I don't want to miss out any details. So that's this is the introduction, I guess. It's a bit over the place, but I just wanted to come on and, yeah, it was just a perfect storm, and it was just trouble getting things processed with the system. There's a lot of bureaucratic hoops you got to jump through, which is insane and stressful for an injured person. Like, it should be the least stressful process possible, because they already have this injury and it's already taken apart their life, and then you're just putting a lot of fucking more chores on them to do. Like, how are you supposed to go to an appointment if you can't fucking physically go there? You know what I mean? Like, just, we need mobile doctors that just come to people. It's insane. And so I was seeing a physio. She gave me 6 free appointments, which was pretty kind of her. And it was a shit show. Like, I was broke. Didn't have money for rent. I ran out of money. It was just this long suffering journey so I moved out because there were family dramas, and not family dramas, but there were dramas at the place I was living at, and I didn't feel physically safe there. So I left because I had this injury, and if I had to fight someone, I would have hurt my injury, and then that would have been fucking terrible. And so I left, and then I was like, yeah, fuck this. So and then I went to go stay with my mother, and then my mother got raped at the time, and that was insane. And then she got evicted, and then so we didn't have a place to stay as well. And anyway, and then I ended up moving like 9 places. Anyway, I'll save all those details for next time. I feel like this episode's come to an end. This was sort of the introduction. This is like the timeline of the story. This is probably, let's say, a fifth of the way through. There's so many fucking just insane details that I just either can't remember or just don't have the notes for, or like, it's just so much fucking shit that just happened. There's so much. I think no matter how bad you guys think it is, I feel like I'll never be able to actually express like everything that fucking happened. And I think next episode we'll go into more the heavier stuff. But the good and bad of this is that, so I don't want to leave on a negative note, I'm going to leave on a positive note. The positive side of whatever the fuck I went through was that, God does make a way. I believe that. And starting to rain. And I was able to eventually find a place that was ideal for me in my recovery, and I feel like you can put that in. I feel like if you let go of the need to have control, and if you feel like there's an option of faith and where it's telling you to go, I feel like if you just put your trust in that it'll, you're allowing the divine to sort of guide you through. And when I trusted that, I was able to get places and lived at places that were really good for me, and understanding, and just much better for me. And it's scary as fuck because it feels like you're going to die by giving your life up to this conviction you don't know about. But I promise you, if you just do that, and that's the faith. The faith is you don't know what this is, but you just have a feeling that Christ or whatever is calling you in this direction, Holy Spirit, and you just give your life to that. And it's a paradox because you feel like you're going to die by trusting in that, and then you go through with it, and it was the best option. Because, and I've experienced not trusting that voice a lot. Like, I feel like God sat me down when I was about to lie and make up the story about my shoulder to the doctor, and because I had the paper sheets for the insurance and I left them on the bus, and then the bus took off without me, and then I overstepped on this curb and sat down, and then the sun just sort of like opened from the clouds, and I just felt convicted, and I was like, what do you mean? I felt like God was telling me not to do that, not to go through with it. But anyway, it's starting to rain. This is a bit weird, I'm trying to not leave any, but I think that's enough details for now. I'm gonna go inside because it's raining. If you watch this, I don't even know. There's gonna be the story's gonna get even more crazier, in a good way and a bad ways. Some insane, fucking, just unbelievable stories next episode. Just with people I've like lived with, and just you just wouldn't fucking believe. So I'll save it for next episode, and I'll try to get all that shit. Yeah, it'll be an ugly episode, I guess, and I'll be talking about people that sort of, I don't know. Anyway, have a good day. Sorry, I forgot to mention what I was doing on the physical side of things with my rehab. I did post about this. ATG were recommending a lot of, I was talking to them about my hamstring issue because we thought it was a hamstring issue, and they were recommending elephant walks, which is a long-range hamstring exercise. And the issue with what they recommended was they don't really recommend things like how Keegan recommends things. Like, just from what I've noticed, and this was years ago, so maybe the curriculum's a bit better, but what was my breakthrough with the hamstring stuff and sort of being able to stand better and getting out of the wheelchair was bringing a pump first to the hamstring area and adductor area, and then doing the elephant walk stuff, because the pump helps the tissues get longer. And they were recommending things. They were just giving me long range exercises without understanding the blood flow stuff first, and the concentric only shorter range, shorter range, vascular range stuff first. And I wonder if it has seemed to me like even the ATG's members, their curriculum, I don't know where they get their certification from, but the ones that I've just spoken to them and they haven't really studied Keegan's like understanding, like just, and I'd conversate with them, and I'm just like like they don't really. So I partly want to go there to like present this and be like, hey, you know, some of your guys, like, what's the curriculum here? Like, why is there this like difference from this is the more accurate part of it, and why are we learning like this? Like, I don't know, maybe they're doing an exercise approach, but from a rehab approach, it's not as accurate, and the blood flow makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. You get that pumping first, and then you stretch. You don't want to stretch cold. If you bring a pump to your hamstrings or adductors or any muscle, and then stretch. So test beforehand with a stretch, and then bring a pump to it, and then stretch, and you'll notice the stretch is longer, more comfortable, easier. Like, so they recommended elephant walks, and that I found was the most effective for my hamstring, but it was still aggravating the front of the knee. So I was just doing that for a long time, and then I figured out that it was actually an adhesion that had formed since then that was aggravating a nerve. But I have a whole another video on that. That's all on the physical front. And then, okay, so I'll talk about, okay, so topics for next session are the physical side of things. I have to remember all the fucking injuries. Medical side of things, that fucking shit show. The system side of things, that fucking shit show. The content purpose side of things, the living situation side of things, the daily life side of things, the cleaning side of things. Like, anyway, adios. Sorry, I wanted to finish more on a more positive note. I did meet a lot of people along my journey that were able to help and be of use immensely. Like Joel, for example, he wanted to move a whole fucking house for me, trailer and everything, and it's really helpful people. It's really helpful. It's interesting, like I feel like when people see that you're chasing something or a dream or something important that's good and ethical and, you know, like to make a positive difference, people are more inclined to help you with what you need, even if you have nothing. Like, people are more inclined to, I don't know, side with you, or it's like an unspoken, like an unknown known. Like, you see that guy that's chasing that thing, and it's like, it's really like, you're really drawn to pay attention to that person. So my dream was kind of just to tell the story of, and when I had both hamstring and knee issues, I was like, fuck it, I'll start recording, because if I make it out of this, it'll be a fucking cool story to tell. So I just started recording everything. And yeah, so a lot of warped shit too, like a lot of fucking dumbass appointments. Like, I wish I recorded more things. I recorded roughly like 70 to 80% of the journey I've captured. I recorded most appointments. Some appointments are like, I caught some specialist people saying some fucking stupid shit, And so that'll be interesting to critique. I wonder if I should try and get more of those, because it's just like, you wouldn't believe the absolute backwards dumb shit that they say. You think like they're the answer, and people would say, "I'll go see your physio, your doctor," and then when you're actually in there and your life actually matters about it, and it's actually a very complicated, like a crisis scenario, just the shit that they say, man, it's fucking so stupid. Like, I've had a doctor say that training biceps hit your triceps. I've had a doctor say with the tear that I was trying to show on my knee, and I was trying to get it diagnosed, and she wouldn't diagnose me. Because I was trying to go through with a test, and the test was, I had to do some shit for her, but I couldn't finish the test, obviously, because I had the knee issue. And she's like, "Well, if you can't finish it, then I can't diagnose you." And I'm like, isn't that kind of the fucking point? If I can't fucking finish the damn physical test, then obviously there's probably a fucking issue, and I don't want to hurt myself further. And I was like, no, like, why would I do this? I don't want to hurt myself further. And she's like, "Sorry, I can't." And I got her to feel the rupture, and I showed the rupture to her. She was like, "Well, tendons can move in different ways." And I was like, what the fuck? Like, elaborate on that, please. Because the fibers are aligned in one direction. The fibers contract in the direction that they're aligned. And to say that a tendon moves in different ways and it'll fucking turn into a donut, like what I've got on each knee, and that doesn't happen to your knee, and it doesn't happen to anyone else's knee, and it's just my knee, and I'm telling you it's from this, and then